Welcome to 1337, the future of podcast to books. I'm Max, your host, diving into, epic tales and hidden gems.
And I'm Sophia, and I'm all about the art of storytelling. You know those pages that really move us? Novels, classics, the craft behind the words.
Right. It's about taking control, being more creative, more productive.
And sharing your unique gifts with the world.
Exactly. Run after your obsessions, folks, and take good notes. Where we plunge into a stack of your sources, extracting the most vital insights and giving you a true shortcut to being remarkably well-informed. Today, we're tackling a topic that, let's be honest, touches everyone's daily life.
It really does.
It's a subject that's as frustratingly common as it is surprisingly profound. We're talking about, how to deal with idiots.
Indeed. We're embarking on a deep dive into Maxime Rover's wonderfully provocative essay, How to Deal with Idiots, originally titled, in France, Que faire des cons.
Right.
And David Bellis's English translation brilliantly captures the essence of this vibrant, sometimes scandalous word, using a delightful array of terms like jerks and idiots, oafs and boneheads, louts and fuckwits.
Quite a collection.
Oh, yeah. And this isn't your average self-help manual promising a quick fix,
Yeah.
It's a profound, almost revolutionary exploration of human interaction, moral philosophy, and a deep look into our own inner workings when we're faced with them. Our discussion today will really lean into the literary themes and the storytelling techniques Rover employs, even as we unpack the philosophical debates he presents. It's an exercise in humility, really, and a direct challenge to our most deeply held beliefs about intelligence and moral superiority.
So this book doesn't just offer advice, it kind of confronts us, right?
Yeah.
Forcing us to fundamentally rethink our entire approach to stupid people.
Exactly.
And he's not talking about some abstract concept of stupidity. He's talking about the real, breathing individuals we encounter every single day at work, in traffic, maybe even at the dinner table.
Oh, absolutely. The everyday encounters.
So our mission today is to really unpack Rover's truly radical ideas. We'll explore why these everyday encounters tie us in knots, and crucially, how Rover suggests we can transform that raw frustration into a unique, almost sacred opportunity for personal growth.
That's the key, the transformation.
Get ready for some truly surprising facts and more than a few aha moments that just might change how you perceive the next idiot you stumble across.
It's less about finding fault or laying blame, definitely. It's far more about gaining practical, actionable wisdom to navigate a world where, as Rover so candidly puts it, idiots are all around and all over us. He's not promising a world without them, but maybe a better way to live within it. #main sections.
Okay, let's really unpack this first part. Rover kicks off with a fascinating observation, almost like he's calling out a curious blind spot within centuries of philosophical thought.
Right.
He argues that while great thinkers have wrestled with concepts like understanding and its inverse stupidity for millennia, they've largely kept it at an abstract intellectual level.
Yeah, very theoretical.
They've defined it negatively, seeing it purely as an obstacle to knowledge, to moral progress, to healthy discussion. It's been framed as this nebulous enemy to be battled and beaten down. The whole stultitia delenda est stupidity must be destroyed.
And that's exactly where Rovere makes his first truly incisive point. He contends that philosophers, in their quest to define and conquer stupidity, have always given their adversary an entirely negative definition, starting from an assumed position of theoretically intelligent thought.
Okay.
They've labeled it everything from public opinion and prejudice to pride, superstition, intolerance, the passions, dogmatism, pedantry, nihilism, all these big concepts.
Right.
But in intellectualizing it, they've completely missed the actual messy human problem. It's not stupidity as an abstract notion, but stupid people.
Ah, the people.
Yes. It's one thing to want to annihilate a concept. It's an entirely different and frankly disturbing proposition to wish for the destruction of living, breathing individuals.
So this raises a deeply uncomfortable yet vital question. If the philosophical goal is to destroy stupidity, this stultitia delenda est, what exactly do you do about stupid people?
You can't just delete them.
Exactly. You can't just annihilate actual individuals. Rover doesn't shy away from this absurdity, directly challenging us to consider the implications. He's talking about the jerks who sit at other desks in our offices and the blockheads with whom we share our lives.
Even family, friends.
Right. And who may be found, alas, in our own families. And yes, even among those we choose as friends and lovers. Think about that. Who among us would genuinely advocate for their annihilation?
Nobody, you'd hope.
Rover says anyone who did so would be not only an unrivaled idiot, but a criminal as well. It truly lays bare the impracticality of that old philosophical ideal.
Precisely. This is where the problem becomes, as he puts it, tricky and far more significant from a philosophical standpoint, because it creates an inherent paradox, a circular trap.
How so?
Rover argues that the moment you label someone an idiot, your own intelligence or your disposition to understand, that person is immediately grievously impaired. It's a profound psychological trap. You suddenly feel obligated to talk in its own language, to play along with it. It's as if their irrationality becomes profoundly contagious, pulling you down to their level.
All right, dragging you in.
Forcing you to engage on terms that are inherently unintelligent. You find yourself, almost against your will, sucked up into their way of operating, losing your own intellectual footing.
So the really uncomfortable truth here is that you might think you're so much smarter, but interacting with someone you deem an idiot can actually make you behave like one.
Yes, that's the core of it.
And Rovere isn't just dealing with abstract theories. He's deeply grounded in the messy reality of daily life. He acknowledges that, yes, it's a pressing societal concern to organize things to discourage young people from becoming blockheads. We all want a more reasonable world.
Yeah, of course.
But then he hits us with the crucial, sobering point that there will never be a society in which one part of the population is not viewed by some other part of the population as irremediably thick.
It's unavoidable.
I mean, I can personally attest to this. He mentions his own numbskull flatmate. And honestly, I think we all have someone in our lives, whether it's family, a coworker, that person in the grocery line who, from our perspective, just seems to defy logic.
It's a very real problem, often right there under our own roof, like you say.
Yeah.
And this brings us to a fundamental, and in Rover's words, dolorous admission. Idiots exist, as a matter of fact, indeed, that they exist necessarily, have always existed, and always will.
Always, wow.
Their defining characteristic, he argues, is a specific form of resistance, a kind of blind opposition to anything being done to remedy a situation, including even the situation of their own perceived idiocy. They simply hunker down.
Just digging their heels.
Exactly. This inherent stubborn permanence, for Rovere, immediately rules out simplistic solutions. You can't successfully plead for tolerance among the intolerant, nor can you effectively propose intellectual enlightenment among the superstitious.
It won't work?
Reconciliation in this context is structurally impossible precisely because they don't want it. Trying to engage them in such a direct, rational way, he warns, is utterly futile. It merely serves only to soothe the speaker, becoming yet another opportunity for stupidity to suck in its opponents, trap them in its web, and obstruct yet again all attempts to arrive at understanding. It's a closed loop.
Right, you're just feeding the cycle. And this realization that reconciliation is impossible because they don't want it really sets the stage for the book's core quest. How can we find the means to cope with fools, bores, blockheads, and the like?
That's the central question.
Rovere is refreshingly honest. He's not claiming to have all the magic answers, but he offers what he calls a sketch of a plan, some methods and tools, and familiarity with abstract thought.
It's an invitation, really.
Yeah, it's an urgent call to action, not just a theoretical musing. He invites us, the readers, to join him on this difficult but ultimately rewarding intellectual journey. He's not just lecturing, he's collaborating. Okay, here's where Rovere really starts to challenge our preconceived notions and frankly, gets really interesting.
Yeah, this part is great.
He hits us straight away with what he calls 3 conclusions before we even start. And each one is pretty provocative. The first one immediately makes us squirm a little. Stupidity is in the eye of the beholder. This forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that there is always someone out there for whom you are the idiot.
Ouch.
It's a reciprocal relationship, a reflection, and quite a humbling thought to kick off with, isn't it?
Definitely. And that reciprocal nature immediately flows into his second conclusion. Stupidity can appear in an infinite number of guises.
Infinite.
Yeah. This highlights the sheer futility of trying to classify or categorize different types of idiots. Rover argues that creating a typology would have the serious disadvantage of giving to fools and knaves the kind of consistency that they do not possess.
Right, like they're a fixed species or something.
Exactly. A detailed list, he suggests, would only serve to reinforce our existing prejudices, making us wallow ever deeper in our own prejudices, instead of leading us towards a little more wisdom. He's warning us against believing that idiots exist in the same way that ostriches and copper beeches exist. They don't. Their manifestations are endless.
Okay, so no neat boxes.
Yeah.
And the third conclusion, I think, is perhaps the most humbling, maybe the hardest to accept, but also the most profound. The biggest idiot of all is the one in the mirror.
Mm-hmm. That one hits home.
This ties directly into a fascinating philosophical idea. From the perspective of a pure intelligence, idiots do not exist.
Right, like a God's eye view.
Yeah, a divine infinite understanding, a truly pure intelligence would see no stupid people, because in such a vast all-encompassing view, everything has its place in the world. But we are no God.
Clearly not.
We are flawed, finite beings, and our very problem with stupid people is precisely what forces us to appreciate our own limitations. It's a recognition of our own inherent imperfections, our own distance from that pure intelligence.
So that realization then raises a critical question. What actually happens to us when we encounter someone we perceive as a jerk or an idiot?
Right, in that moment.
Rovere describes it as a psychological switch that immediately undercuts your intelligence. You become offended, you feel upset, and this reaction only increases the offense you feel.
It escalates internally.
Exactly. This dynamic is what he vividly terms the quicksand effect.
Ah, the quicksand.
The more you identify them as jerks and idiots, the more you depart from your own human ideal, the more you become a hostile being, that's to say, a jerk or an idiot.
Oh, yeah.
The proof of it being that you turn into the idiot's idiot. It's a self-perpetuating, debilitating cycle where your very negative reaction actively diminishes your own capacity for understanding, for empathy, for intelligent engagement. It catches you out, pulling you into this state of scorn and disgust that only serves to perpetuate the problem.
So your very effort to label them, to judge them, actually diminishes you.
Fundamentally, yes.
It's almost as if the perceived idiocy becomes a blot on the landscape that you desperately want to eliminate. But the more you withdraw, the more contemptuous you become, the more he insults you.
You sink deeper.
You find yourself sinking deeper and deeper into the quagmire of your own contempt. This circular, self-defeating process literally destroys the conditions necessary for its solution.
And entrap yourself.
You just can't stand them, and that leads to that primal, almost visceral urge. Stultitia delenda est, they must be destroyed. But that very feeling, Rover says, is the trap. It's what ensnares you, not them.
And this realization, this recognition of the self-defeating nature of our anger and contempt brings us to Rovere's first truly crucial counterintuitive takeaway. Ready for this?
Lay it on me.
1. Do not try to educate idiots. Change the situation, not the person.
Whoa. Okay. Change the situation, not the person.
Radical, isn't it? It's a radical shift from our typical approach. Rovere argues that directly fighting or trying to fix the person is utterly futile because their perceived idiocy is inherently contagious and self-perpetuating. It's like trying to bail out a leaky boat with a sieve.
Pointless effort.
Right. The path to freedom, Rovere insists, lies in redirecting your effort. It's not about passively accepting moral inferiority on your part, but rather recognizing the repulsive face of human weakness as an external phenomenon, and then seeing the challenge it presents to your own humanity.
So it's an internal challenge.
Yes. Your anger at their actions, while understandable, actually causes the lessening of the love and benevolence you are capable of displaying. The fight becomes internal, not external.
It's almost comical when you think about it, isn't it? The harder you try to fix or change them, the more you unwittingly become like them.
The irony of the quicksand.
And this isn't just dry theory. Rovere is brilliant at bringing this to life with relatable examples. He talks about living with his own numbskull flatmate, vividly illustrating just how real and profoundly frustrating this trap is in everyday domestic life.
Oh yeah, the flatmate stories.
But he also expands beyond that to universally relatable scenarios like a driver cutting in on your lane, a walker giving his dog a kick, or a passerby dropping litter on the pavement.
Things we see all the time.
These are behaviors that, in the moment, instantly mark jerks and idiots as individuals that we can identify, if only fleetingly, as occupying a lower rung on the scale of morality.
We judge instantly.
Yet, despite feeling intellectually or morally superior, we become utterly ensnared in this frustrating dance. We might not even realize we're stuck in the quicksand until we're already halfway submerged.
If we truly connect this to the bigger picture, the quicksand effect arises precisely because there's, well, no charge sheet for idiocy. You can't legally prosecute someone for being an idiot, right?
Like, no idiot jail.
And this is compounded by its highly contagious nature. The very act of identifying someone as an idiot causes you to lose your cool and your analytic abilities, which spirals into a panic reaction.
Panic.
Yeah, he describes it as an intellectual and emotional nightmare, scarier than science fiction because it happens entirely within your own mind, yet feels utterly external, like you're being attacked.
It's true. Our immediate reaction is often a sense of injustice, almost a moral outrage.
Yeah.
And the traditional solution to perceived wrongdoing, that idea of moral switching, responding to hate with love, turning the other cheek.
It's forgiving 77 times.
Exactly. It seems logically, even cosmically absurd when you're facing down someone you've internally labeled a fucking idiot.
Doesn't feel possible.
Where, Rover asks, do you even find that kind of strength when idiocy, by its very nature, saps the moral energy of its adversary?
It drains you.
It almost presupposes what it's supposed to engender. It implies a strength you simply don't possess in that moment of raw frustration.
That's Rover's brilliant dissection of this concept. He suggests that invoking moral switching as a solution often presupposes what it is supposed to engender. Meaning, it assumes you already possess the immense inner strength, the benevolence, the unwavering calm that the act of moral switching is meant to create in you.
Ah, the chicken and egg problem.
Precisely. It's a philosophical chicken and egg problem. He challenges us to consider where this seemingly additional energy is supposed to originate. Is it from God, some grand historical ideal, or perhaps an innate, almost superhuman moral virtue?
Right.
But crucially, Rover then guides us towards understanding how we can access that power from within without relying on these external, perhaps unreachable ideals. It's about finding that internal wellspring of calm and understanding.
Okay, so how does he redefine it? What's truly fascinating here is how Rover redefines stupid behavior itself. He says it does an injury that weakens us morally, yes, but is fundamentally a pain, not absolutely evil.
A pain, not evil. Interesting distinction.
The trap we fall into is a mental transition from a relational framework, meaning our interaction with this person, to an unconditional declaration. Stultitia delenda est.
Back to destroy stupidity.
Yes. This he calls a false induction, something that infects us, making us claim universal validity for a truth that is only relative. We start acting like a judge of the universe, proclaiming an absolute truth that's really just our own subjective frustration. And in doing so, he says, we ironically become an asshole ourselves by taking our own opinion as an absolute universal law. That's a brutal mirror.
It really is. This mental slip, this instantaneous reaction, Rovere terms stupefaction. It's an illusion created by panic, a kind of mental paralysis. He argues that idiocy in its raw form is an event which, like any other event, is not an evil in itself, although it is a pain.
Just an event, like rain.
Kind of. And like any other event in life, it's ambivalent. It can turn out for good or for ill, more or less well or more or less badly. It is, in its purest form, pure reality, insofar as it emerges unwrapped, pliant, and susceptible to change.
Wow. Okay.
Think of it. An idiot telling a tasteless joke isn't an act of pure evil. It's an event that is susceptible to change. And in a strange way, he's basically inviting it through his very action. It's a raw, unformed moment.
So that annoying loudmouth telling tasteless jokes at the company party, or that jerk cutting you off in traffic, Rover says, isn't inherently evil. They are not cosmic villains.
No.
Instead, he proposes, these interactions are actually an opportunity to test the moral values you strive to embody every day.
An opportunity? Really?
Yes. It's not a hurdle or a punishment, but a challenge that is profoundly personal and even intimate. He says it's superbly well-suited to you and to no one else since it is happening to you. It's almost like a personalized spiritual workout delivered by the universe.
That's quite a reframe. And it truly reframes the entire interaction. It leads us to Rovere's second crucial understanding. 2. When idiots stand in your way, your moral worth comes into play.
Okay, that makes sense in light of the opportunity idea.
And building on that, a seemingly impossible third point. 3. Be the first to make peace.
Make peace with the idiot.
This absolutely does not mean surrendering to them or accepting their moral inferiority. Quite the opposite. It means recognizing that you are, in a sense, the only hope there is in our joint aspiration towards the human.
Wow. Okay. Heavy responsibility.
It puts the responsibility squarely on your shoulders to rebuild peace and harmony. This encounter, however infuriating, becomes a stroke of luck, an unparalleled chance to display your own intelligence and tactfulness.
A stroke of luck. Seriously.
Because, as Rovere points out, human worth would simply have no meaning without these occasional unfortunate encounters where it can be deployed. It is a challenge, not an obstacle to be overcome by external force, but rather a crucible for your own internal moral development. It's your moment to shine, not theirs.
It's all well and good to understand these profound concepts, to grasp the theory of moral development in the face of idiocy. But then...
And reality hits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
As Rover candidly admits, there's that inevitable backsliding into emotion. He calls this bedazzlement, that moment when the number of things you can keep in focus at the same time shrinks in proportion to the strength of the feeling.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah, it's like watching a firework display that blinds you to the rest of the sky. The local annoyance, however trivial, suddenly takes on an absolute value. I definitely experienced this myself. When my flatmate, in Rover's example, leaves his dirty dishes in the sink for the 5th day in a row, it suddenly feels like he's set on ruining my whole life.
It feels huge in the moment.
Yeah.
That's Rovere's insight into why your pain stops you thinking. While traditional philosophers might preach rigid control over emotions, seeing them as disruptive forces of disorder, Rover takes a radically different stance.
Oh, what's his take?
He argues that emotions have to be taken as events in themselves, as challenges of a second order. They aren't obstacles to be suppressed, they are phenomena that demand their own kind of attention.
So don't ignore the feeling.
Right. This is why, he states, quite emphatically, deal with your own emotions first. Taking care of the idiot comes second. Your feelings, in Rover's view, are not the problem. Your resistance to them is the real issue.
Ah, the resistance again.
It's our fight against what we feel that traps us.
And this leads to a profoundly counterintuitive lesson. 4, don't fight feelings, let them out.
Let them out? Like how?
Well, the idea here isn't about uncontrolled destructive outbursts. It's not about yelling at your flatmate about the dishes until you're red in the face.
Okay, good.
Rather, it's about finding an appropriate way of expressing them that drains them entirely to the bottom of the glass. It's about allowing your emotions to be accepted and understood, which Rover argues will ultimately improve the prospects for future interactions.
Find a healthy outlet.
Exactly. He uses a really graphic but effective analogy. You need to relieve your heart as you relieve a troubled bowel. It's a natural process that needs an outlet, not suppression.
Okay, memorable image. He offers another wonderfully vivid analogy to illustrate this point. The more screens you put up on the beach to shield you from the wind, the more likely it is that the wind will knock them down. The destructive force, Rovere argues, isn't intrinsic to the wind itself. It comes from the nitwit who puts up screens. Our own attempts to resist or control something that is, in essence, natural.
So we cause our own problems by resisting.
In a way, yes. This means the real issue isn't the emotion itself, however uncomfortable. It's our resistance to it, our futile attempt to control what cannot or should not be controlled. This very resistance is what exacerbates the emotion, turning a momentary gust into a destructive gale. It's a powerful argument for acceptance over suppression.
Now, Rovere's analysis of our usual knee-jerk response to idiocy is brutally, almost uncomfortably honest.
Yeah, he doesn't hold back.
He observes that we instinctively tend to moralize, whether it's through a volley of insults, a lengthy improvisational lecture, resentful muttering, or silent churning. These are all, he says, masks for different ways of moralizing.
All just preaching, basically.
Right. He argues that nobody is born an idiot, but doing something stupid is being stupid. And our anger is almost always connected to a representation of duty or obligation. We feel a moral wrong has been committed.
And this brings us to what Rover identifies as the core of the problem when dealing with these situations. Preaching, in any of its forms, is essentially an effort to make an idiot disassociate from his or her own act, appealing to a value system you are trying to defend.
Trying to get them to see the light.
But Rover argues that this moralizing posture is built on an implicit sermon that is fundamentally a sham. You're implicitly saying, you should not behave that way, not because I am telling you, but because something bigger than me dictates it through me.
Ah, invoking higher authority.
Exactly. It's a very curious mixture of projection and smoke and mirrors, where the speaker subtly, perhaps even unconsciously, masks their own personal involvement and emotional investment behind a veneer of objective moral authority.
And this mixture of projection and smoke and mirrors reveals a truly critical flaw. The speaker, you, ultimately, has no authority to utter them, because in the eyes of the interlocutor at this point in the interaction, it is the giver of lessons who is the jerk.
Oh, the irony.
It's a maddening catch-22, isn't it? He brilliantly illustrates it as having two people standing side by side looking into a mirror. The person I am not, speaking to the one you were not.
That's a great image.
You're trying to appeal to a better version of them while they see a worse version of you. It presupposes that you have already achieved what you are still only setting out to do, namely to change a piece of scum into a human being. The entire premise is flawed from the outset.
The stark, even painful truth here is that anyone who preaches to others is implicitly giving an authentic, personal confession of impotence.
Impotence.
When you're truly confronted with an idiot, Rover argues, your power of expression is halved, turns back on itself, and blurts out plain nonsense. It's an outlandish way of saying, I'm at a loss, you turd, have pity on me.
So preaching is actually a cry for help.
That's what he suggests. This moralizing discourse, he suggests, is nothing more than the theme tune of the great panic from which we have been trying to escape. It's the sound of our own frustration, not a solution.
And this leads us directly to another truly powerful takeaway, one that requires immense self-awareness. 5. Don't preach. Stop judging right now.
Stop judging. Easier said than done.
Absolutely. But this means accepting that moral discourse preaching is actually the theme tune of the great panic from which we have been trying to escape. It's Rovere's way of saying it's completely crazy to ask your opponent for help by simultaneously sabotaging your own capacity for expression.
Right, you're undermining yourself.
You're essentially saying, I can't get you to act as I want you to, so I am telling you that you ought. It's an admission of defeat masquerading as a moral lesson.
Moving deeper into Rovere's analysis, he reveals another, perhaps even more unsettling truth. Idiots saw off the branch of the tree on which language sits.
What does he mean by that?
What he means is they fundamentally don't want to understand. This is a profoundly crucial point because it means that what initially feels like a crisis of confidence in your own ability to communicate swiftly turns into a conflict of authority.
Okay.
And that conflict of authority inevitably becomes a conflict of interpretation. Your dignified sermon, no matter how eloquently delivered, simply shifts the problem without solving it because the foundation for shared understanding has been eroded.
Because they're just not listening or not willing to.
Exactly. They don't want to understand.
And it's maddening, isn't it? Even if we grant that universal moral laws exist, we're certainly not going to let an oaf who's trampling on it give us a lesson about those laws.
No way.
Rovere points out the most abysmal, the least tolerable of all the truths. That some people are systematically stupid. He's not saying they just have different values or a different perspective. He's claiming that what they value is the absence of logic. That is to say, incoherence. They are not idiots by accident, he says, but rather systematically stupid. It's an almost intentional refusal to engage with reason.
Wow. That's a heavy claim. He provides a particularly unsettling example to illustrate this. Someone who is neither stupid nor mad, and not even nasty, who is brilliant at his job, but does not want to understand.
So it's not about lack of intelligence.
No, it's about a deliberate, almost strategic refusal. This systematic idiot refuses even the notion of setting rules together, plunging everyone into complete powerlessness.
Why would they do that?
Because, as Rover asserts, idiots don't want you. They have no respect for you. They have no consideration for you. Your existence has no relevance to them whatsoever.
It's chilling.
He calls this a vertiginous chasm, a terrifying void where the very basis of human connection dissolves. It's an active disengagement.
This chilling realization that they don't want to understand that your existence is irrelevant to them takes us to the 6th takeaway. 6. Stop playing with words. Idiots don't want to understand.
Just stop talking.
Well, stop trying to win with logic or rhetoric. The catastrophe here is not just a misunderstanding. It's that co-humanity between you and your jerk has collapsed, and coexistence has also fallen into a black hole. Dialogue, as we typically conceive it, becomes utterly impossible when there's no translation possible between these two worlds.
Two different planets.
You're speaking one language, they're speaking another, and neither is willing to learn the other's tongue.
He wisely reminds us that human interactions are far more complex than just linguistic exchanges. They involve a whole symphony of cues, tone of voice, manual and facial gestures, physical posture and appearance, gut feeling.
Nonverbal stuff.
Yes, and critically, there's an ungraftable realm of affinities and hostilities where jerks can't stand something about you before you've moved your little finger or said a word.
Like an instant dislike.
Exactly. This mutual feeling is often unconscious, a visceral repulsion that predates any spoken word or logical argument. It's a truly unsettling thought that the conflict might be inherent, unspoken, and deeply intuitive.
So if empathy has been lost, and if Rover tells us that the conditions for restoring it are not to be found through traditional means, what can we possibly do?
Yeah, it feels pretty hopeless at this point.
It feels like we're left with absolutely nothing, abandoned in this interactional wasteland. This interactional catastrophe, he laments, sinks our common humanity to the ocean floor. Is there truly a way back from that abyss? Okay, so judging and preaching are out. They're ineffective, often making things worse. Rover proposes a truly radical alternative.
Okay, I'm ready for some hope here.
It's about how to listen to idiots and even how to make them talk so as to de-escalate conflicts.
Listen, even when they're being awful.
Hear me out. He argues that when an idiot plainly exhibits their stupidity, your immediate moralizing sermon is nothing more than a wail of impotence.
Right, the confession of impotence we talked about.
Your internal reaction might be to try and deny you committed any fault, to justify yourself. But Rover says, do not justify yourself. It is humiliating and pointless. It's not about finding fault. It's about finding a path to peace.
Okay, so what do you do instead of justifying?
The crucial shift Rover suggests is to recognize that when someone preaches, when they hurl accusations or moral judgments, they are actually bewailing their own powerlessness.
They're lamenting.
Yes. Their utterances are no more than lamentations, expressions of their own pain and frustration projected onto you. The solution, therefore, is not to engage with the content of the accusation, but to void them of all prescriptive content and to strip them of the blame they cast.
Just ignore the blame.
Not ignore, but see past it. Instead, Rover urges us to receive the lamentation. Yes, receive it, welcome it, and accept it as testimony of a pain that asks only to be recognized.
Wow, that takes serious discipline.
It's an act of profound, almost spiritual empathy, allowing you to remain calm and unperturbed by the emotional storm around you. You're not agreeing, you're acknowledging their pain.
So when they scream, "You should not be hurting me," they're really only saying it hurts.
Exactly. The point isn't to debate fault, to argue about who did what, but to simply bend your ear to the moaning, to hear the underlying pain. This leads to a fundamental, profound shift in our approach, from judgments to stories.
Stories, how does that work?
It means recognizing that the underlying aim of these seemingly judgmental sermons is not necessarily to make you admit a mistake, but to obtain recognition for their suffering. It's a cry, not a claim.
Okay, and this brings us to Rover's seventh and arguably most beautiful takeaway. 7. Share your stories. Encourage others to tell theirs.
Storytelling is the solution.
Rover argues that storytelling is the kind of discourse that ought to bring relief from emotions, the bonehead's emotions, and yours as well. He believes that only a story can assuage the conflict because it allows the truth to emerge at the intersection of different points of view, making it unnecessary to reach agreement.
So you don't need agreement?
No. It embraces imprecision in the absence of certainty, something judgment utterly rejects. He even likens it to a funeral chant, lamenting an interaction that has hit a brick wall, acknowledging the death of one kind of exchange to open up another.
That is a truly beautiful and hopeful thought. The idea that the absolute privilege of storytelling in human interaction is one of the most beautiful things we can observe in the world.
It really is.
Even if the perceived idiot won't lie to you because they are so desperately focused on needing to be in the right, their sincerity in telling their story is, at a deep level, an action undertaken in common.
A shared human act.
It's a shared human experience, a reestablishment of elementary trust, even in the midst of conflict. It acknowledges their humanity, even if their actions are frustrating.
Renouncing conceptualization, abandoning the urge to define and categorize, and not making judgments means consciously trusting the power of storytelling. You don't have to accept the version of facts that idiots provide, or even understand everything they tell you.
So you don't have to buy their story.
No. Like a complex musical melody, a story provides a narrative thread in which there is absolutely nothing to understand in a purely logical sense. The goal, Rove says, is to open an emergency confession booth.
An emergency confession booth. I love that.
Why? Because, as he so bluntly states, idiots are in pain, damn it. By simply listening, you restore elementary trust, and in doing so, you paradoxically make your own life easier.
Even if it's boring to listen.
Right. It might feel a bit disgusting and deadly boring to listen to someone's long-winded, self-justifying narrative, but Rover insists it is ultimately the most effective and profoundly human path.
Okay, so moving beyond individual interactions, Rover then turns his gaze to the frustrating realm of institutions and the law.
Ah, yes, bureaucracy, fun times.
He notes, with a wry cynicism, that the powers that be don't give a damn. Officials, these limbs and organs of government, are part of institutions that never work properly, precisely because they are theoretically stable forms intended to give structure to a changing reality.
Stable forms changing reality. Yeah, that's a recipe for mismatch.
Think about the sheer frustration of navigating a bureaucracy, trying to get help on a phone service line, or feeling utterly humiliated by processes that seem designed to stifle problems rather than solve them. It's a universal experience of institutional idiocy.
It truly is. Rovere points out that governments are always playing catch-up with changing customs, ideas, cultures. This is why officialdom remains as idiotic today as it was in Hammurabi's Babylon.
Wow. Hammurabi's Babylon.
An incredibly provocative statement linking ancient laws to modern frustrations. Bureaucracy, he argues, only exacerbates this inherent dysfunction, adding a layer of surliness to the structural malfunction.
So, yeah, you have every right to bemoan the stupidity of institutions. These fixed, stable forms are constantly, inherently, and perhaps necessarily out of sync with fluid, dynamic reality. They are not designed for individual human nuance.
Nope. Not at all.
So, given this inherent institutional idiocy, how do we as individuals assert our rights, especially when we feel wronged? Rover discusses 3 scenarios where you claim to be in the right. First, by introducing a non-existent law. Second, by enforcing existing laws. Or third, by demanding respect for a moral duty not codified by law.
Okay.
He focuses particularly on that second scenario, where assholes make light of existing law, like the ghastly lady with a little dog walking it off-leash in a restricted area, or a blatant pickpocket. These are clear violations where the law seems to be on your side.
Right. Seems straightforward. Call the authorities.
Well, this leads us to a truly complex and counterintuitive point. Appealing to the force of law, like calling on the state when that ghastly lady with a little dog is offending you, is at its core a threat.
A threat, but it's the law.
Yes, while the state possesses legitimate power, it can strike your wallet, and it can constrain your body. Rover warns that extending the domain of law, constantly reaching for legal recourse, paves the way for the state to encroach further on private life, a subtle but dangerous step towards totalitarianism.
Totalitarianism, that seems extreme.
He argues it normalizes a reliance on the big machine that's tougher than you are, you stupid oaf, making citizens accustomed to having external authority solve their interpersonal disputes rather than figuring it out themselves.
Ah, okay. So we become dependent on the state for everything.
That's a truly counterintuitive and almost chilling thought, that our attempt to deal with idiots has turned us into slaves. We've made ourselves unable to manage without rule-giving institutions, effectively creating a totalitarian system without needing a dictator.
Wow.
So the question arises, is more law always bad? It seems like appealing to the state while offering an exit strategy from powerlessness comes at the profound cost of our own agency, putting us in a posture of submission. We give a piece of our freedom for a sense of order.
So what's the alternative? No laws. That sounds like chaos.
No, not at all. Rovere isn't advocating for anarchy. He clarifies that extensions of the law define improvements in public institutions. We need laws. They provide essential structure.
Okay.
But, and this is the crucial nuance, to avoid that slide towards totalitarianism, every additional law requires, as compensation and as an accompaniment, every citizen to acquire additional autonomy.
More autonomy. How?
This means we must learn the skill of solving problems without regard for the law, or, better still, before being obliged to call on the forces of law and order. He recognizes that the state doesn't always settle disputes effectively, or it does so at a very high cost in time and effort. We need to cultivate a deeper social awareness and problem-solving capacity at an infralegal level before it escalates.
So try to sort things out ourselves first.
This reveals a truly profound truth about our relationship with authority. Threatening with the state's force, even when justified, puts you in a posture of submission to an external power. It might be an exit strategy from powerlessness in the moment, but comes at the fundamental cost of your own agency and self-reliance.
Okay, I see the trade-off.
This brings us to Rover's 9th takeaway. 9. Shelter under the law if you have to, but stay free.
Stay free, meaning maintain your autonomy.
Exactly. It's presented as a last resort, a desperate measure, like jumping off a moving train if and only if it was to escape certain death. You shouldn't become reliant on it as your first or even second line of defense. It's a safety net, not a primary tool.
Okay, building on this idea of submission to external forces, Rovere meticulously dissects the third scenario he introduced earlier, formulating a moral judgment about an action not explicitly prohibited by law, like simply being a jerk.
Right. The stuff that isn't illegal, just annoying or wrong.
Exactly. In these situations, you have neither objective facts nor codified law on your side. He argues that moral law, in this context, is an intangible principle, merely an extrapolation of juridical law and dependent on a habit of submission.
An extrapolation.
Yeah, it's essentially the continuation of the law beyond its material framework, but without any written rules or actual penalties to back it up. It's a phantom authority.
So basically saying you're morally in the right in ordinary life without any legal backing is just threatening idiots with a force that you do not possess.
Trying to wield power you don't have.
It's trying to establish a power relationship without having the means to do so. Rover doesn't pull his punches. He calls this obviously stupid.
Okay.
He describes it as an imaginative delirium where reality is projected as a negative image of itself. It's like shipwreck survivors hallucinating waterfalls in the desert. It's a cry of anguish, a personal demand to fill the gap between your wish for the world to be different and the frustrating reality of events that occur.
So it's just wishful thinking expressed as morality. He offers a potent example that many of us might relate to. You, my dear reader, maintain that human beings have a duty not to be jerks.
Sounds reasonable to me.
What's more, you have the cheek to think that you are not supposed to hate your fellow humans, even if they are jerks. Rovere then insists that duties of that caliber do no honor to your sense of reality.
Doesn't honor reality. What does he mean?
While these ideals might honor you for asserting your values, for him, they are also immediately proximate to individual insufficiency. They are too close to our personal anguish, to our frustration, to be truly effective as universal edicts. They're about our feeling.
Okay. And this takes us to the 10th takeaway, which is truly challenging to our instincts. 10. Don't impose your own norms. Negotiate the norms of others.
Negotiate norms. How do you negotiate someone else's morality?
It means recognizing that your moral authority, when invoked in these situations, is often nothing more than a cry of anguish, a personal demand to feel the gap between what you wish for and the events that occur.
So again, it's about your pain.
Morality, in this context, might feel like it can free you from misplaced submission and justify your moaning and wailing. But its ultimate effect is that it destroys interaction. It becomes a hidden threat, and, as Rovere states, a surefire way of putting your relationships to the axe. It's a moral hammer, not a bridge.
Okay, this is a crucial debate, and Rovere takes a very firm stance. He argues that moral law, precisely because it's immediately proximate to individual insufficiency, meaning it's born of our personal frustrations and anxieties, often ends up tearing each other to shreds when we try to impose it on others.
It becomes a weapon.
His core argument here is that a dialogue can have no preconditions. You cannot force someone to accept your moral framework before you even begin to talk. Therefore, it is necessary to lay down your arms whenever these subjects are raised.
Lay down your moral arms.
Our deeply held moral convictions, while vital for us, are simply too entwined with our personal anguish to be effectively imposed in interaction. They become barriers, not pathways.
And this doesn't mean becoming an immoralist, simply abandoning all sense of right and wrong. Quite the opposite.
Okay, that's important.
It means respecting the privilege of interaction over the content of the exchange. It means the act of engaging, the process of human connection, is more important than rigidly enforcing your specific set of beliefs in that moment.
Process over content.
Imposing your norms, even if they're perfectly valid and universally accepted in your own mind, is the surest way of wrecking whatever part of them might be shared with others. It's like Rover's analogy of the waiter who only offers salad and green beans when you desperately want fries.
Right.
It's an insistence on a rigid norm that actively stifles connection and potential for a different, perhaps more flexible, outcome. Now, Rover confronts us with a deeply uncomfortable truth, one that might feel incredibly cynical at first glance. In principle and by definition, idiots are always pro-war.
Pro-war, that sounds harsh.
While our instinct is usually to favor peace and harmony, he argues that many of our postures in daily life are oriented towards conflict and destruction. He says this destructive impulse is more widespread than you might think, subtly simmering beneath the surface of our seemingly innocuous interactions.
How does that manifest? This impulse, he explains, comes into play whenever we set prior conditions for dialogue conditions that presuppose the other is not, in fact, other.
When we demand conformity first.
Yes, when we demand they conform to our view before we'll engage, we are, in essence, declaring war. He draws a powerful historical parallel to Cato the Younger's relentless obsession with destroying Carthage. Ceterum censea Carthaginem esse delendum.
Carthage must be destroyed.
Right. Rovere uses this to illustrate the logic of war that smolders like red-hot lava beneath the outer crust of any debate. The key difference, he notes, is that idiots, unlike Cato, don't realize the real conflicts and devastating consequences that follow their provocative words or actions.
They don't see the consequences.
They just embody the impulse without understanding the stakes.
And this is truly the alarming part. Rovere claims that idiots want war without having any idea what it is or any real desire to wage it.
Accidental warmongers.
Kind of. They aren't strategists. They're almost accidental instigators. Yet, the principle of war, which Rovere defines as depriving another person of the right to speak and fundamentally of the right to exist, gives them a profound pleasure of exercising the power to destroy.
Pleasure in destruction.
It's a paradoxical pleasure, derived purely from destruction from the act of negation. It's a primal, almost unconscious urge.
This profound insight brings us to Rovere's 11th and perhaps most challenging takeaway. 11. Make peace and leave idiots to their wars.
Just let them have their war.
He paints idiots as pea-brained giants who can't get over how strong they are, constantly testing their power at any cost. Their violence, he suggests, is more cosmic than personal. It's a channeling of nature's law of entropy, the return to disorder or destruction of organized forms.
Entropy, like the universe tending towards disorder.
Exactly. It's simply easier and requires less energy to destroy than to build, to break down than to construct. They embody this fundamental principle of the universe.
So the force of existence passes through them and destroys them, and for that reason they suffer and hate. This is why Rovere argues that stupidity is the principle of all destruction.
Wow.
And if that's the case, then it logically follows that it is not possible for stupidity to be destroyed. You might desperately want them to suffer, to weep, to be kind, to see the error of their ways, but they won't. You can't eradicate a force of nature.
So that explains why philosophers throughout history often maintain silence regarding fools, a posture too often mistaken for aristocratic disdain.
It wasn't disdain.
Rovere argues it's a necessary act of self-preservation, essential to avoid unleashing the logic of war yourself. We must, he urges, leave your nearest and dearest entirely free to spout utter rubbish, as long as it's not done in the form of actual physical violence or play.
Let them spout rubbish.
Otherwise, you become another idiot throwing your anguish at others like a custard pie. This, Rover concludes, is precisely why idiots are sacred cows for philosophers. They are to be observed and understood, not engaged in a futile battle for supremacy.
It's a very unusual and almost darkly poetic perspective, but it really ties into the idea that idiots are the holy apostles of war.
Yeah.
The truly horrifying part of war, in Rover's view, is that it reveals like a black hole the ecstatic implosion of joy without cause. It's an almost nihilistic satisfaction in pure destruction. It's a fundamental truth about a certain segment of human interaction that's hard to stomach, but crucial to recognize.
Oh.
Okay, now we come to what is perhaps the most uncomfortable truth, especially when we look at the world around us. Rover asks why we are ruled by idiots.
Oh boy, here we go.
He directly confronts the madness of giving public office to intellectually challenged, twisted, and brazen idiots. Our natural inclination, shared by most of us, is to think the world would simply be a better, more efficient, more rational place if it were run by competent folk.
Yeah, that's the common complaint, isn't it?
We lament the state of things. But Rover challenges this directly, suggesting, quite provocatively, that such a world would not necessarily be better.
A world run by geniuses wouldn't be better. Why not?
He uses a fantastic thought experiment. Imagine a purely meritocratic philosophy department filled only with the intellectual elite. He argues that once isolated, these brilliant minds would inevitably reinvent new forms of stupidity and quickly lose their taste for each other's company.
Oh, okay. Why?
Because, he explains, any social agent only exists in a context of support and inside a whole society that not only makes such activities relevant, but also funds them. Without that broader context, without the second-rate people who give context and recognition, the first-rate folk would not exist as such.
So geniuses need non-geniuses to be recognized as geniuses?
That's a truly humbling thought for anyone who prides themselves on their intelligence. And critically, Rover adds, nothing human can stay afloat in this world without majority support. Even genius, he argues, needs the power to attract and retain the desire of the lowing herd.
The lowing herd. Charming.
Their very glory, their recognition, their funding, all rely on the recognition and support of those less capable, or those who simply value different things.
This leads him to introduce the concept of medianocracy.
Medianocracy. Yeah. Rule by the average.
Pretty much. He argues that positions of power and influence are often entrusted to those most adept at exploiting institutional nooks and crannies, those most inclined to flatter others and be humiliated by them, and crucially, those most able to embody, partly by misapprehension, the hazy will of the greatest number.
So it favors the middle, the average?
It's not necessarily because most people are idiots. It's due to the sheer diversity of human beings and the way power structures coalesce around average inclinations and accessibility. The median, not the outlier, often carries the day.
This brings us to Rover's 12th practical takeaway. 12. Fight for your preferences, not for your frustration.
Fight for preferences, not frustrations. What's the distinction?
Having an idiot boss or feeling that you're ruled by an incompetent prime minister isn't necessarily just bad luck or cosmic punishment. Rovers suggest it's the result of the law of probability, of medianocracy at play.
Just statistics, basically.
The real challenge, he urges, is to change the world not because it disgusts you, but because you love it, including the way it currently is. You should focus your energy on what you can positively contribute, on your own position, and what you can genuinely do, rather than simply reacting to your frustrations.
So focus on positive action, not just complaining about the negative. This requires a very delicate and vital balance between your striving for a better world and your understanding of the world, which, by assuaging your feelings, helps you not to experience stupid decisions as cosmic disturbances.
Right, keep perspective.
It's about accepting your place within the existing reality of human nature, including its less agreeable aspects, while still nurturing your aspirations for improvement and progress. It's a dance between acceptance and striving.
It certainly feels like idiots are on the increase, doesn't it? Every time I scroll through social media or watch the news, it feels like the collective intelligence of humanity is plummeting.
Oh, definitely feels that way sometimes.
But Rovere argues this is largely an optical illusion.
An illusion? How?
The true reason isn't some historical surge in stupidity. Instead, he provocatively suggests that idiots increase in direct proportion to our ceasing to be such.
Wait, so as we get less idiotic, we see more idiots?
Kind of. As we grow older, as we lose our illusions about the unity of the human phenomenon, we start to realize that thousands of others rise up from the ground like weeds on the lawn. Our perception changes, not necessarily the reality.
Ah, so it's about our changing standards or awareness. The core reason for this perceived increase, Rover explains, lies in the interactional nature of idiocy. The number of our interactions, both face-to-face and digitally, has increased exponentially in modern life.
Oh yeah. Constant interaction now.
Due to greater mobility and the proliferation of digital platforms. Think about it. Our grandmothers might have had dozens of meaningful interactions a day. We now have hundreds, sometimes thousands, across various channels.
Cool.
And the more interactions there are, the more opportunities arise for misunderstanding, for clumsiness, or, in brief, for interactional disasters. So a simple statistical truth emerges. More interactions inevitably mean more perceived idiots, simply because there are more chances for the idiotic dynamic to play out.
More rolls of the dice, more chances to see idiocy.
Yeah.
And tragically, Rover suggests that our own patience and tolerance have also decreased in proportion to this increase in interactions.
We're less patient.
We've become high-precision machines capable of spotting idiots by the blink in their eye, making us merciless graders of people. We're quicker to judge, quicker to dismiss.
Ouch! Merciless graders.
And often, we rule out those who are actually susceptible to change simply because they don't fit our immediate, narrow definition of intelligent or reasonable. This brings us to Rover's 13th takeaway. 13. Look after your interactions. Your values will look after themselves.
Focus on the interaction itself, not just the underlying values.
Right. The emphasis shifts from rigid internal values to the quality of our external engagement.
This problem is further compounded by what Rover calls the gigantic mixing and blending of group norms. Cosmopolitanism, while having many benefits, inadvertently fosters the fracturing of social codes into micro-communities.
Little bubbles.
Idiots, in this context, are often distinguished for rejecting people who do not follow their codes. This happens irrespective of the privileges afforded or denied them. It's not necessarily about adherence to a larger group, but rather the performance of that adherence through exclusion, often at a micro level, creating more friction.
So Rovers argues, because codes are being whittled away, idiots are on the increase. This effect is tragically compounded by algorithms and personalization in our digital lives.
Wait, echo chambers.
Leading to a state where each of you will soon become the only person respecting those codes as they appear to you, in a vast ocean of twits and oafs. It's an increasing sense of isolation in a world you perceive as filled with twits and oafs, creating a self-fulfilling prophecy of frustration.
That sounds bleak. What's the solution then? The solution, Rover insists, isn't simply promoting a vague idea of tolerance by claiming we're all the same, because to be different is precisely to have preferences, which include a natural tendency towards repulsion. We are wired to gravitate towards certain things and away from others.
So acceptance isn't about pretending we like everything.
No. The key is to break free from your defensive posture, putting your ideal values to the test of concrete interactions, and engaging in negotiation so as to improve your relationships on all fronts.
Test your values in the real world.
Don't defend your values by wielding them like crusader banners or isolating yourself. Instead, use them as a guide for more effective, real-world engagement.
Finally, we confront the truly sobering reality that idiots always win.
Oh, great. And on a high note.
Rover asserts that the majority of people are necessarily stupid, since most human beings tend to follow the principle of the conservation of energy.
Conservation of energy, like physics.
He means it boils down to fundamental human traits like laziness, carelessness, incompetence, and conformism. It's not malicious intent. It's simply the principle of inertia.
Ah, the path of least resistance.
It's like a pebble in your shoe that doesn't need to have any intention to annoy you. It just does.
And this, Rovere states, is the 14th and perhaps most challenging takeaway. 14. Look into the loophole.
Loopholes? What kind of loopholes?
Idiots win, he says, not through malicious design, but due to nature's natural bent, a problem that is all the more intractable because nature is the point of intersection of all real worlds. Changing them implies changing their world, which is incredibly difficult due to this pervasive inertia.
So it's like fighting nature itself.
Rovere's point here is that if idiocy is tied to such fundamental, almost physical laws of the universe, then it is indeed an inescapable force. So you must find the subtle ways to navigate within that reality. Look for the cracks, the openings, the ways around it.
That unsettling impression that idiots are on the increase will never stop, even if in actual fact the number of idiots goes down. As we grow older, as we shed our illusions about the unity of the human phenomenon, we start to realize that while the idiot in you starts to wilt, we hopefully become more self-aware. Thousands of others rise up from the ground like weeds on the lawn. It's a constant personal battle of perception and interaction. The problem isn't going away.
Rovere's ultimate conclusion, therefore, is profoundly pragmatic. There is no expert at dealing with stupidity, and that you have to constantly think up new tricks and devices.
No magic bullet.
No single fixed solution. Instead, he suggests we must constantly alternate between three core strategies: negotiating with those who can manage it, changing those who allow it, and leaving those who refuse to change on their own.
Negotiate, change, or leave alone.
There's no one-size-fits-all solution, just continuous adaptation, flexibility, and a commitment to ongoing learning within the complex tapestry of human interaction.
This deep dive into how to deal with idiots reveals that what Rovere calls the first foundation of stupidity is probably the universally shared wish to exist as separate beings.
Our desire for individuality.
This profound desire to exist as distinct individuals, often opposed to our complementary, equally human wish to belong, frequently leads us into idiocy. It's the madness of desire and absurd pride that fuels this cycle, the very bedrock of our human experience.
And Rovere notes that simple contempt for idiots is insufficient on its own. It's not enough to just dismiss them. Instead, he argues, these pathologies of interaction, these frustrating, painful encounters, teach us to be attentive to the kinds of interdependence that they reveal.
They teach us.
Even when they assert themselves as forces of war or destruction, idiots will teach you more than you will teach them, because you are the one who wishes to learn.
If you're open to learning.
Exactly. And the universe in its grand cosmic equilibrium remains entirely indifferent to peace as to war, reminding us that our internal peace is truly our own responsibility regardless of the external chaos. Hashtag tag outro.
What an incredibly illuminating journey into the unavoidable world of jerks and idiots. Rovere's work, far from offering simplistic, saccharine answers, provides us with profoundly practical insights into why these interactions are so challenging.
Definitely not simple answers.
And, more importantly, it guides us on how we can fundamentally change our own responses, our own relationship to them. It's not about eradicating idiocy, which he argues is impossible.
Impractical and impossible.
But about managing its profound impact on our own intelligence, our own well-being, and our own inner peace. It truly is, as he says, a vast game of separations and reunions that is tragic and comical in equal measure.
Indeed. The book relentlessly forces us to confront that humbling truth. The biggest idiot of all is the one in the mirror.
Always goes back to that.
And in accepting that, it argues that true wisdom springs not from intellectual superiority, but from a pure wish to learn and from a willingness to accept our own theoretical wrongness, our own imperfections and limited perspectives.
Accepting our wrongness.
It brilliantly redefines idiocy not as a curse, but as a unique opportunity for personal growth, a chance to genuinely test the moral values you hold dear and to truly show your own worth in the face of what feels like insurmountable frustration. This, Rover believes, is the core of his interactional ethics.
So, from learning to let out our frustrating emotions constructively, rather than suppressing them, to abandoning that almost irresistible urge to preach and embracing open-ended storytelling over rigid conceptual arguments, Rover equips us with powerful practical tools.
Real tools.
These tools are designed to help us navigate this vast game of separations and reunions that is life itself. It's about fighting for your preferences, for the world you want to see, not for your immediate frustrations.
Yes. Fight for preferences.
And about diligently looking after your interactions so that your deepest values can truly flourish, unburdened by resentment.
Ultimately, Rover's philosophy invites us to find a way to assuage your anguish by playing the game of life, recognizing that peace has no alternative but to take the energy of war on board and to accept the necessity of conflicts as a game.
Accept conflict as a game.
For Rovere, this profound acceptance allows you to find your place at the table where gods and philosophers laugh out loud and throw insults at each other. It's about accepting the reality of human nature, including its less agreeable aspects, and finding a way to thrive within it, to find your own joy and peace amidst the inevitable chaos.
So the next time you encounter an idiot, that driver, that coworker, that family member, maybe, just maybe, you'll see it not as a personal affront or a moment to despair, but as a fascinating cosmic invitation.
An invitation.
An invitation to demonstrate your humanity, to practice your wisdom, and to grow. What will you do when the next idiot comes your way? If you want more on this and other deep dives into the world of books, make sure to visit 1337podcast.com.
Thank you. See you next time.
And strength and honor, I am Spartacus.
Thanks for watching. Tap into 1337podcast.com.